Before there was Michelle and Barack Obama or Olivia Wilde and Harry Styles, actually, before Harry Styles was even born, the red carpets of Hollywood were filled with iconic couples that, sadly, time has allowed many to forget. From romances that sparked on set to notorious on and off affairs, these duos deserve to be remembered. Farrah Fawcett and Lee Majors. Farrah Fawcett was an up-and-coming actress when she was set up on a blind date with established actor Lee Majors. They tied the knot in 1973 and were married during the time that Fawcett found success on Charlie's Angels. Sadly, they divorced in 1982. Jack Nicholson and Michelle Phillips. Jack Nicholson's relationship with the Mamas and the Papas singer had a rocky start, since Phillips was previously married to Nicholson's friend, Dennis Hooper. Regardless, they dated on and off in the early 70s. Raquel Welch and Joe Namath. While Raquel Welch and Joe Namath's relationship could be described as brief, the New York Jets quarterback escorted her to the Academy Awards in 1972. At the time, Welch was recently divorced from her second husband and Namath was a hotshot playboy nicknamed Broadway Joe. Warren Beatty and Julie Christie. Warren Beatty and Julie Christie were not only some of the biggest actors in Hollywood when they dated, but the it couple in town. They broke up in 1973, but it sounds like there were no hard feelings. "We're very close and she's a remarkable person," Beatty told People in 2016. Jane Fonda and Roger Vadim. When Jane Fonda married Roger Vadim in 1965, the French director had already been linked to many other famous actresses, like Brigitte Bardot and Catherine Deneuve. They were together for 8 years and had one child together, but split in 1973. Diane von Furstenberg and Prince Egon von Furstenberg. What would the 70s be without this pair? Diane founded her fashion brand in 1972, a few years after becoming a princess through her marriage to Prince Egon. They often frequented Studio 54 during its heyday. Sally Field and Burt Reynolds. One of the biggest hits of the 70s, Smokey and the Bandit, also led to one of the decade's favorite couples. Sally Field and Burt Reynolds met on the set in 1977 and dated for 3 years on and off. Diane Keaton and Warren Beatty. Diane Keaton had just ended her long-term romance with The Godfather co-star, Al Pacino, when she became romantically involved with Warren Beatty. The couple began dating in 1978 and he even casted her in his 1981 film, Reds. Jane Birkin and Serge Gainsbourg. Throughout their 13-year relationship, the English model and French singer were constantly the topic of conversation. They were together from 1968 until 1980 and had one daughter together. Catherine Ross and Sam Elliott. While filming The Legacy in 1978, Catherine Ross and Sam Elliott fell in love. They eventually married in 1984. The union was the graduate actress's fifth, and they've been together ever since. Sylvester Stallone and Sasha Zack. Sylvester Stallone's first wife, Sasha Zack, is one of the few people to have known the action star before his Rocky fame. The couple married in 1974. Stallone got his big break 2 years later, and they eventually split in 1985. Audrey Hepburn and Andrea Detti. After divorcing Mel Ferrer in 1968, Audrey Hepburn fell in love with Italian psychiatrist Andrea Detti while on a cruise. They got married in 1969 and lived together in Rome throughout the 70s. Harrison Ford and Mary Marquardt. When Harrison Ford was just a young actor, he entered Hollywood as a married man. Ford said, "I do," to his high school sweetheart, Mary Marquardt, in 1964. They were together until 1979. Goldie Hawn and Bill Hudson. We don't like to think about a time before Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, but back in the 70s, Hawn was part of another iconic duo with Bill Hudson. The couple married in 1976, but by 1982 they were done. Dustin Hoffman and Ann Byrne. Dustin Hoffman was married to his first wife, Ann Byrne, throughout the 70s and lived in New York City with their 2 children. It wasn't until 1980 that the pair were officially divorced, and both remarried that same year. Mick and Bianca Jagger. From their St. Tropez nuptials in 1971 to their constant antics at Studio 54, the Rolling Stones singer and his first wife were one of the most photographed couples of the time. After a 7-year marriage and one daughter, they divorced in 1978. Elvis and Priscilla Presley. Sadly, the 70s is when Elvis and Priscilla Presley's iconic marriage came to an end. After 6 years and a decade-long courtship before that, Elvis filed for divorce in 1973. Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. By the 1970s, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward had already been married for more than a decade, after tying the knot in 1958. But the Hollywood couple was still one of the most beloved of the era. Jacqueline Kennedy and Aristotle Onassis. America had to adjust to the former First Lady's new last name in the 70s, after she married shipping tycoon Aristotle Onassis in 1968. They was one of the most high-profile couples of the decade, whether they were in walking the streets of NYC or on Aristotle's yacht. Paul and Linda McCartney. Linda McCartney was the ultimate rock and roll wing woman throughout the 70s, specifically on the 1972 Wings Over Europe tour. The longtime couple married in 1969 in London and were together until Linda's death in 1998. Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner. It wasn't a new relationship, they were married from 1957 to 1962, but Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner were all anyone could talk about when they reunited in 1972. They were together until Wood's death in 1981.